alcoholic. He's addicted to pills. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, what is my path here?
Yeah.
Why is this my lane?
Yeah.
I need to completely shift.
Yeah.
And my dad was working in an oil refinery. He had shifted from Boeing helicopters, where he was for 20 plus years, got over into an oil refinery, which was a really good job. He was a mechanic out there, and they had an opening at the time. My uncle and I wound up both getting hired into the oil refinery to be an operator, like running pumps and pipelines and pressures and monitoring that. So I went from working 30-something days a month, right? Like most months are like 26, 27, 28 days, almost the whole month, 4:30 a.m. to, as late as you needed to as a supervisor at the golf course, to working 14 days a month and doubling my salary overnight with overtime opportunities. Like I went to like a 60,000 base salary, and I was like, oh my gosh, we made it, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't understand before, right, getting into the oil refinery, what 12-hour swing shifts will do to you.
Dude,
so
it's so hard on your body.
I did that for 6 years. So I got into the oil refinery, and I'm working 12-hour swing shifts. Great money. We bought our first house, 2007, right? Great time to buy a house at the top of the market. It crashes less than a year later, loses $100,000, and we're like, okay, I guess we'll never ever sell this house. We'll just keep living. I don't think today it's still not worth what we paid for it. Like,
oh, jeez.
I don't know how many years later. It's insane.
Yeah.
Certain areas just didn't. But the Northeast has been hit hard. So there was a night there about 5 years into my career, 4.5 years into my career at the oil refinery, that I'll never forget. And I was working. The doors shook a little bit in our blockhouse. This is the cinder block with all the computers inside that control all the pumps and pressures outside. And I'm working, and my job is to make rounds outside every so often, come back in, check in with the chief, let him know, hey, things are good. This is what's going on. I got to transfer here to there. We're shipping some explosive stuff. Whatever's going on, it's all explosive, right? This guy's making jet fuel. Yeah. I'm making isobutane that hangs out in the cavern that gets pushed into gasoline. Like, it was insane, right? The stuff, I'm like, this is kind of my job. It's just to facilitate the different transfers of explosive material. So it was kind of wild. But the doors rattled, and I was like, what was that? He was like, well, everybody just called you youngin', right? I'm super young there. I'm in mid to early 20s. They're like, well, youngin', that's either... it's super windy outside. We got a hurricane blowing through, or something just blew up. I'm like, blew up? What do you mean? So we go outside, and sure enough, there's a huge fireball out back. Like, there was an explosion. So a 400-pound hydrogen line a few units away had blown up. It's probably 300 yards from where we are. But I go outside, and then we just go the whole plant into emergency mode. And everybody's like, the radio is like dead silent, and that's never good. Everybody just goes to work. We're closing valves. We're opening stuff. We're dumping things.
Because you don't want multiple things to start blowing.
No, it gets super scary.
Do you know how many people were in that building?
So the explosion was outside. It was on a pipeline outside, and it happened on night shift. So I'm there working night shift. So this was a 4:30 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. shift, and it was around midnight, a little after midnight. It was but I was there in the blockhouse, the way they have them built and insulated, like we didn't hear it. And I was 300 yards away from this thing. I started getting phone calls in the middle of the night from my family members that live 3, 4, 5 miles away. They were like, what happened? The whole house just shook. The windows shook. And I'm like, I'm right here. There's no way.
Yeah.
We were insulated. Like they started calling like, are you okay? Okay. I was like, I have no idea. Like I'm in emergency. Got to go. Boom. And I was grateful that it was night work because Lauren was sleeping. But I went out back, and I remember going down to get my stuff, coming back because I'm like, I'm going to kind of shelter in place. I was at a different little remote building. I was like, I'm not going to go be by myself during this craziness. So we kind of huddled in together. And on my way, just about as I walked through the door, I remember it feeling like hot lava hit the back of my neck. And I turn around and like feel my neck, and I see another fireball. Like there's another huge fireball. And I'm like, this is not good. Like this is going from bad to worse. And everybody's just kind of running, doing their things. And there was some heroes we learned about later that night that like definitely put their lives on the line to run in that evening and get some stuff isolated and closed down. The unit the explosion was an ethylene oxide unit. Ethylene, when you mix it with oxide, the government used to use it to drop out of airplanes and called EO bombs. So the EO bombs have a 7-mile blast radius. Well, the ethylene unit where the explosion was one of the few remaining units, you can wonder why, in the entire country, because all the other ones have blown up. So this just happened to be a hydrogen line that found a weak spot, blew up, but it was really, really close to some of these other vessels. And when they overpressure or need to release, they dump to the atmosphere. Well, we've got an open flame, and if you dump that to the atmosphere, the whole area would have been gone. 3, 5, 7 mile radius, boom. annihilated. So I'm like, my parents live 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. So I didn't know if I was walking out of there that night, and a lot of the other guys, like the guys that we went through that night together, like we still are kind of like, hey, you good? You good?
Yeah.
It was a messed up night. So I did a lot of praying that night and realizing that I'm in my early 20s, and it's a really unique opportunity to think about your legacy in your early 20s. Like, what the heck have I done with my life? What's my mark on the world? What's been my contribution? And I had a shift that night where I promised God, like, you bring me through this. Let me see my family. Let me get home in the morning. And, like, I will figure out whatever I need to do. I will grow. I will learn. I will develop whatever I need to so that I can leave a measurable, impactful, beneficial mark on this world to leave it better than I found it.
Yeah.
So it forced me in that direction, which I'm so, so grateful for. So obviously made it through that night, which was super scary, terrible evening. What happened about a year and a half later, because of that explosion and the expense that it would have cost to put everything back together, the whole plant shut down. So me, my dad, 500 other guys, we all got laid off on the same day about a year and a half later. Notice came a few weeks before Christmas.
And what year was this?
Oh, goodness. This was 2000.
2010.
Yeah, 10, 12, somewhere in there.
Not a good time to get laid off.
No. Well, never.
Well, yeah. Never a good time.
Yeah, but
the explosion, I think, was 2010 or 11. It's all kind of fuzzy, honestly, but I'm grateful for that too. Like, that started a whole series of financial challenges that I didn't even realize. Like, I kind of thought, stay in this lane. I'm making good money. Work overtime when you can. If you need something extra, you make a $700 on a 12-hour shift. Like, go work a few of those and get whatever you need. Like, buy something, whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah.
It opened my eyes to a whole new world. So from then, getting laid off just really, really gave me perspective about what the heck am I doing with my life. I'm on the same path that my dad's on. I've done what he told me. All the old timers at the oil refinery were like, you're good. You're set for life, youngin'. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Your family's going to be good. You want to buy a vacation house down the road. You want to get a boat. You're good. It's like, okay. So I thought that that's what you do.
Yeah.
Until they all get laid off. And
everybody
then
got laid off.
everybody.
Right? Now what do we do?
Yeah.
So I could see the writing on the wall shortly after the explosion. Cuts. Like, everything. Like, they would barely give us a pair of work gloves.
And what is that?
It was weird.
What does that feel like emotionally? Like, what are you're going through at that time, you know? Like, do you try and just hide what's going on, or do you face it, or what type of person are you?
I grew a lot in that time. Like, it forced me to start my growth process, and I didn't even know about personal development yet.
Yeah.
But it forced me to start to, like, learn, because for the longest, and that's why I found trade school, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to, like, I'm done learning.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my mindset. So I realized that mindset flipped almost overnight. Like, I need to learn, and I'll probably continue to learn the rest of my life.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh man, what a blessing.
Always
like, to realize that. So then I go back to school, I start to work, I talk to other people. I'm like, hey, you do this, you do this, you do this. What do you like? How do you like it? I got to go back to school. I got to figure something out. I got to do something else. I can see that something's not going good. This is definitely not going to be here forever. But then we find out, hey, like, they're shutting the whole plant down. Like, oh crap. So luckily I had started some things to transition into another career.
It never opened back up, or?
Nope, still shut down.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they turned the whole thing into a logistics terminal, just using the pipelines to ship stuff.
Wow.
Yep, whole thing shut down.
Yeah,
and that's
crazy.
part of the hard thing about the Northeast too, is it's like the people are there. Banks in the cities and stuff do really well, and a lot of the bigger industries that was all along the river there, Delaware River, up and down into Pennsylvania, where people could come out of high school or come out of the military and make 6 figures with no college degree and take good care of their family. Like, those jobs aren't there anymore. It was a very industrious city, you know, or number of cities where I was, in Marcus Hook and Chester, Pennsylvania. And now you drive through these areas and it's just like a bar on every corner. Nothing but tons of cash, you know, what are the quick cash kinds of places, payday loan places, liquor stores, and it's terrible. Boarded up houses, like it's rough. A lot of hard areas right there, right? Which creates hard people. Like, it's just, they've had hard lives. So the jobs have left, the people haven't. Like, it's just, they're there figuring it out. So I sparked my learning, and that led me to a path of realizing that I'm wondering if this area has, like, served its purpose for me. And not that I'll never come back, or I don't really know what the rest of life will hold for me, but like
there's
I feel like for where I'm
much
at,
opportunity for you,
right?
In
there wasn't.
particular,
Right.
yeah.
So I said a big prayer. There was a whole tree full of blackbirds, and I'm praying in the corner of the house one day, and I was like, God, I need a sign. Like, it needs to be almost like a 2x4 hitting me in the head, like that big, because I know I'm going to have to convince my wife. I know I'm going to have to tell my parents.
Yeah.
And my whole family. My mom is one of 5. Her mom is one of 12. And all the extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody is within 30 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm feeling like I don't know where I'm going, but I'm getting out of this 30 minutes like radius. I didn't know if it was New Jersey or if it was clear across to California, Utah, right?
Yeah.
So I prayed and I told God, I was like, I need a sign and I need to say like I can't
need it.
I can't
big.
not have seen that. Yeah. So I'm like, that whole tree is full of birds. I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna pour my heart out here. And the second I open my eyes, all these birds are just gonna fly away. And like I won't be able to say that I did not see that.
Yeah.
The second I stopped praying, they were all wet. And I'm like, okay, so this is going to be interesting. Now I get to have the hard conversation. Like, I can't say I didn't see that. Lauren came home from teaching an essential oils class that night. I'm looking at properties in Utah because I prayed about the location and everything else that started kind of coming to me and feeling like what area was good, where could I get some footing and traction, who had a strong economy, and where were things trending that didn't look like where we were at now.
Right.
And Utah was it. And landed there. She came home. She was super pissed. Super pissed. Did not want to come to Utah.
Yeah.
About the fact that you picked Utah?
Yes. Yes.
She's like, no Utah.
She had a free ride to college if she would have come out here to BYU. And she
refused.
Really? Like she just
she didn't want to live.
Back east, it's weird, man. People like you don't go west. You go north, south. You don't go west. Like when you retire from the Northeast, you go to Florida. You go to Virginia. You go to North Carolina.
Which you guys actually, I mean, you guys even moved to Florida for a tiny bit. Like there's a...
You go north-south.
There has been
east,
traction.
West. People don't go east-west back east. Like you don't do it. You go up or down. And I'm like, psychologically, that's kind of funny. I'm like, what if I go laterally for a minute so that I can get up or down, like so that I can create some space. But no, we came to Utah. We packed it up. We got married in 30 days, and we did the same thing when we came to Utah. And sold everything and came in 30 days.
Did you have any family here, or what was going on with that?
Nope, just planted. Her brother came out for college and stayed. But
you just had a premonition, or what, that you should move to Utah?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. This area, I was like throwing a dart at a map. Like, I know there's another area for me and my family.
Like, close your eyes, okay.
Where do we go?
Where are we going?
And I'm like,
Utah.
Yeah. So we land in Utah. Again. And I'm like, okay, where's the airport's in Salt Lake City? So I got to get there. In case this doesn't work, we got to be close-ish to the airport. So what's kind of close to that? And we just kind of looked at like circled a big circle around like Lehigh, Cedar Hills, and wound up landing in Cedar Hills for a year. And then came a little bit further south and realized.
And that's right, like right when I met you, because you guys were moving from Cedar Hills to Mapleton.
Yeah.
Like that's right when I met you. Yeah.
So do you have like family members that have came to visit?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they love it, and they can see why we're here. They're still, it's still hard. I was super close with I still talk to my parents almost every day. Like it's.
Where'd you say you grew up?
Hard.
Delaware, right? Yeah. And what's the like weather like in Delaware?
Humid.
Is it similar or more humid, or
the spring and the fall is magical.
Okay.
The winter can suck, or it can be okay.
Yeah.
And
kind of like
the
here.
summer, if you don't mind humidity and sweating, it's fine. Yeah. But you get more bugs. You get more.
Yeah, you get more of that kind of stuff because it's wetter.
The humidity in August is never fun, but
it
is what it is.
But there's not the mountains like you have
There's no
here.
mountains. You get rolling hills, no mountains.
I love the mountains.
I do too. Yeah. Mountains are great.
Yeah, they've grown on me. We love it here.
Okay, so then once you got to Utah and you started you guys started to jump into the essential oil business that your wife was doing.
She started. Yep.
Yeah, she started. And then you started like, hey, maybe I should jump into this with her. Let's try and build this. But on the side, you're doing a financial business as well. Yep. So tell us a little bit about that and what made you decide to do that. And now he's run 3 different businesses.
Yes.
So
I started that. I started getting into that. That was my transition out of the oil refinery, getting into the financial stuff. And I had a family member that worked it, and I was like, all right, well, can you teach me a few things? They were kind of sort of in retirement, but we're like, I guess. Like, I guess I can show you a few things and teach you some stuff. That did not work out too well, trying to work with family. We tried it for a few years. Then I went out on my own and tried to figure some other stuff out, and just really had a hard time finding home.